Going live. Got my stack here. Yeah, I'll bring that to the top. All right. Can I hear that acceptably? Oh, play. Check. Sounds okay. Can hear that little whine in the background. I have to edit that out of the actual audio itself. I'm not sure what that is. I think it's the connection to the actual laptop itself. I tried fixing it before, never really seemed to be able to do that quite as nicely as I wanted it to, so I just have to leave it at that, to be honest. I've got that going. Just make sure my audition is recording. Yep, it's looking good. Got that done. That'll put in there. Nice. All right. Okay. I should just quickly switch through a couple of these just to make sure this is still sounding okay. Check. Yep, that's going nice. Sweet. Yeah, lol, once in the chat. Not going to even bother promoting it. Lol. All right, sweet. That's good enough. Cool. Here we go. All right. Oh, make sure I'm sitting there. There's a good place. Wahoo! Welcome. Let's restart that. Wahoo! Welcome everyone to another monthly book recap here on the Mere Mortals Book Reviews. You have myself, Kyrin, here on Monday, 29th of May, 2023. And yes, indeed, we're going over all of the books that we read in May of 2023. We'll have a look at some additional notes that I might be talking about, some things that might not have made it into the official channel before we get onto the Boostagram Lounge, have a look at what is coming up for what's next June of 2023, and maybe even a couple of changes that we're going to be making to the channel. So the first book that I had a kick off with, my favorite of the month, was The Debacle by Émile Zola. I gave this an 8 out of 10. Man, I'd been meaning to read one of his books again for a long time. I quite enjoyed Therese Raquin. That's a really decently written book, the kind of psychological thriller. And yeah, I had a couple of his. I had The Drinking Den. I had, I think it's like The Underbelly of Paris or something. I can't remember what the name of it was. And I had a stack of his books just sitting there. But I also went, you know what? It's been a while since I've read a war book as well. So indeed, I did read The Debacle. It's a fantastic book, really well written. I'm really impressed with him as a writer. I find him I've only read 2 books, so I can't rant and rave too much, but the 2 books that I have read I think are amazing, and learning more about his kind of history, about his style of writing, the naturalism, the Rujun Marquardt series. Let me look at my notes here. I wrote down exactly what it was. It was the Les Rujun Marquardt series, and of course I'm mispronouncing all of this in the French accent, but 20 books of a series covering this kind of family history. Almost think of the what you'll find in Cien Años de Soledad, the 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. That one I do know how to pronounce. And this kind of branching tree of the Buendias and of, Aurelios and all of these people who are just like, God damn, this thing goes on forever. I kind of feel like that's what this series is, but of 20 books and not just of one kind of focused, intense book like that one was. And yeah, there was just so much cool stuff in this. What I didn't talk about was I have a couple of quotes here from page 54 and 119, or I got rid of the book, so I don't have the quotes, but there was the demoralization that you also see within the army as well. And just some really weird moments where they are, being forced to retreat or move, once again, move location. This is right at the start of the book. And you have these old ladies, peasant farmers and stuff, calling out to them from the sides of the roads, being like, "You fucking cowards, like, you pieces of shit. You're leaving us here for the Germans to just waltz through. You're not going to even put up a fight." And it's kind of this idea of, but we're just following orders. And yet they're kind of being treated, and it's almost as if it's just one of those situations where you, as the kind of pleb, as the farmer, and also as the grunt soldier, and you feel the responsibility, even though it really has nothing to do with you. You don't get to choose, and just these shit situations that crop up in life, and then also by the incompetence, by nature, the rain, wind, the delayed baggage trains, uncertain terrain, territory, multiple generals, the terror whilst retreating, half-baked plans of individuals. There's so much going on in such a short period of time where it is just, whoa, the chaos of war. I imagine that is, I think he did a great job of capturing that, but I imagine it's nothing like what it's actually like in the moment when you are experiencing all of these things. And man, I really hope I never have to experience anything like that. There was also just there's quite a big difference between the intimate details of the first two parts, which are really focusing on these characters of Maurice and Jean. And then looking at, in the third part, which is this more kind of extended view, their individual roles as fighters is kind of reduced now, and it's more, here's what's the large scale impacts are having on Paris when the Germans are kind of invading and getting to the gates of Paris sort of deal. And how war also, we see on this little individual level of these two characters, the pain and misery and whatnot, but then you get this broader scale view as well, where it's like, oh, Paris is getting sacked, Paris is on fire. Geez, this is I don't know, the large, uncaring, ambivalent actions of multitudes of, hundreds of thousands of people acting in a unit, and just how that is a steamroller, and it just does not give a shit. It'll just crush everything in its path. So yeah, great book. Émile Zola's The Debacle. The next one, which I gave a 7 out of 10 to, was Charles Handy's The Second Curve. A very strong recommendation from Sam Sethi, who I had on the Mere Mortals podcast about this particular book. He ranted and raved about it. I had mixed feelings on this, to be honest. I think he's a great diagnosis. He's great at looking at long-term trends and perhaps even predicting where they're going. And I think that's an admirable quality and can certainly serve you well in life, because it'll kind of you won't waste your time on stuff which isn't going to eventuate. It's kind of, the more connected you are with reality, the closer you can be to living it, I guess, something like that. What I didn't enjoy was just these small portions where he had these kind of half-baked ideas of how we can fix this thing, and, we should tax this certain individuals or do this sort of thing. And that was where I went, okay, like, this guy is great at diagnosis, but I'm not sure he's great at cures. And it really just did seem that kind of like armchair politicking a little bit. It wasn't that much. It just left a slightly sour note on many of the chapters where I went, this wasn't great. What I did enjoy was, there's one of the books where it was obviously a kind of collection of essays, and he wrote them particularly for the book. And it just makes such a big difference of that compared to a collection of short stories or a collection of Buddhist teachings or things like that, which have been collected and they don't have this continuity. There was sections where he would reference the section before or the section afterwards that's coming, and you go, yes, like, it's just I think the appreciation that he gave the book the effort it deserved. It wasn't a half-assed thing. he put in time to write individually for that. And I think it's totally fine to take ideas that you've had across separate genres, across, he wrote this, I think, when he was in his 80s, and he's written a lot in his life, and I think it's, totally acceptable to get ideas and even bases of other essays he's written in the past and use that as a formula. But god damn, at least update it, at least rewrite it at least enough that it kind of makes sense to put in a book of a collection of essays. So that was great. There was also just a whole bunch of things where I agreed with him on. So, bonuses are absurd, and it's kind of bribery to work better. I find the whole bonus system in pay, in salary people, just to be absurd. I agree with that. Pensions are Ponzi schemes by and large. The more I'm learning about economics, the more I'm kind of realizing, oh yeah, that's just a promise from my, me now going, 30 years time, I wouldn't mind having the people who are coming up in the next generation paying for me. So that would be kind of cool. And so how that is, it's not their own savings that they're living on. And it's just comes back to individual autonomy. I actually quite dislike the idea of a superannuation fund. It's kind of like if you get to 60 years of life and you realize you have no money, what the fuck have you been doing the rest of your life? Once again, it's kind of, I find that weird. And then also the management is control, leadership is freedom, and university is more just to prove that you can toe the line rather than follow instructions and whatnot. So yeah, just lots of things there where it's kind of like, meh. Those are the things I agree with. And then there was just those little side notes and whatnot. So I did connect with the book quite a fair bit, but just there was something just a little bit off, which I'm not going to rant and rave about it like Sam did. So that's the Second Curve by Charles Handy. We had Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. A bit of a disappointment to me, to be honest. I gave this a 5.5 out of 10. I quite enjoyed Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I thought that was a great story. Coming into this one, I was surprised by how short it was, considering this is regarded as one of his, the top two of his books, or at least the top two well-known ones. And the style of it, I think, is okay. I think it can work, and it certainly works for another book I did enjoy, The Alchemist. The problem for me, which is this very sharp dialogue between characters, is almost simplistic. It's almost what I would imagine if I had to get ChatGPT to write a dialogue or something like that, where it's just this, use as minimal words as possible and do it as if they had an IQ of 80 or something. It's just so superficial. There's nothing that gets kind of deeper. It's almost, okay, if you had to write a paragraph about someone's emotions and then condense that into 5 words and then expand that 5 words to maybe 12 words. That's kind of the way it's written, which it worked for The Alchemist. I think that worked really well for that book. But for this one, when it's kind of about a love story, once again, I've got my personal grievances about the word love. I find it a very useless word in its just subjectivity. It's just so subjective and means so many things to so many people. And I find that a book like this, which is meant to be a love story, I don't think it really works that well. And I don't know. I'm willing to be wrong on that. The other thing is just personal grievances I have with the characters. Liars, cheaters, ones who advocate for violence really readily, ones who play games with other people's emotions for fun. The only other character I did like was Gabriel, this kind of mild-mannered farmer who I kind of identify with, and then I was just annoyed at him that right at the end he turned into a simp and fell for the girl, even though she was rejecting him kind of this whole time. And it just bugged me. It bugged me a bit. So I think he could have done better, but this is where it's like old-timey England in the countryside, where there might be one girl who is a kind of like viable option or something. So who knows. The other one here, which I had, was Life Force by Tony Robbins. This was one had been threading about this book for ages. I remember him talking about this back in, I think it was like January or something, crazy long time ago. For me, anything with ads is a straight up no. I'm not reading a book to be sold a product. Absolutely not. So kudos for him for getting through that. The classic with books about science and whatnot, modern science, is that they are very liable to change. And it's funny, even though it's written about the scientific, a scientific topic, the scientific method, we should be getting to the truth of what is reality. I just find these books, they don't hold up that well against the test of time. Maybe it is the kind of current best practice. Maybe it is what is the most well known at this very moment. But god damn, that changes so much. And so I definitely prefer reading stuff which I think is closer to reality, and by that I mean the classic literature, because it's had so many eyeballs on it across so many different eons, across so many different types of living circumstances and whatnot. What is the nature of like happiness? Why does the human mind, fall into certain traps and ways? Why do humans act like we do? Why do we go to war? What are the kind of underlying motives? What are the essential human emotions that carry across various different cultures and whatnot? That's the stuff I find fascinating more, because I think you can get closer to the heart of it, to the reality of it, which is really funny because that is also super subjective. There's no way you can scientifically measure, what is happiness, or why do humans behave the way they do. There's no way, but funnily enough, it almost seems like you can. So we had that one by one. Also that you can't pick it up and read it and kind of get back to places, which is what he was indicating. Yeah, not the biggest fan of that. I'm going to quickly add into this section as well that I had an attempt of Horace's The Complete Odes and Epodes. Epodes? I don't know how you say that. Just nothing grabbed me about this. It's... Maybe I'll try it again in the future, but that's a kind of like classic Greek, I would say. He was with Virgil as well, so maybe that's Roman. But from the 65 to 8 BC, a master of precision and irony, is perhaps the most perfect poet of the Augustan or Golden Age of Latin literature. So just not up my alley. So I did give an attempt to it though. So that is what we had for all the books of May of 2023. Go check out the Mere Mortals Book Reviews channel if you want to see the full book reviews for any of those, if any of those sound interesting. What's happening in the Boostagram Lounge? Nothing. We had nothing coming in, and this is, I think, an impetus for me to change up the channel somewhat. I have been feeling this for a bit, where it's, I'm not sure it's working as much as in terms of how much time and effort I'm putting into this. I do spend a lot of time to create these full detailed book reviews, structure it in certain ways, think about what I want to say, how I can say it in the best way and whatnot. And I'm just not sure it's serving me and serving the audience as well. So I think I'm going to focus less on the boostagrams for this channel. I just don't, it just hasn't been coming in. There's only ever been Peter really who was sending stuff in. So even those who are listening on the audio, obviously it's not doing that much for them. So what I'm planning on doing is basically opening up an avenue of support, probably through PayPal. I think I'm not the biggest fan of Patreon as a model. I just don't agree with the company, and I also am not a fan of kind of paywalls in that respect, which it kind of is. In a way, I mean, it would just, I would feel bad as well if people were going there and expecting extra content or things like that, which I'm not going to do. I want everything I do to be accessible for free for everyone, and then just ask for support to continue on. So I think I'll be doing that. I am likely to transition this to more of a live format and do this as a live thing, just because the video editing, it's just all of these extra steps. I think with the amount of feedback I'm getting back, I need to reduce the amount of time and effort I'm putting into this. So I'm thinking of doing more live ones like this. And yes, there will be, I think, a bit of a reduced quality in perhaps how it is set out, but it's also just easier and quicker for me. And then finally, I'm really not sure if I'm going to put as much effort into the notes and whatnot, and maybe just shoot a bit more from the hip, maybe not include the full detailed sections like I have done, and really order it from the most objective to the most subjective, which is what I try and do. I really try with the summary, the synopsis at the start. I really try and make that neat, clean, no additional words of my or I think or anything like that. I just try and straight up say what it is. Getting into the themes, they are a bit more subjective. They are what I took from it. Observations and takeaways, obviously, that's just my opinion. And then the summary at the end is very much my opinion. So I'm thinking I might just rehash that and just not take as much notes and just kind of shoot from the hip a little bit more. We'll see. For the moment, it'll stay the same, but I think in a month's time, it'll be a bit different. And then the other one would be, just doing them live, which will also kind of facilitate that, making it easier for me and whatnot. So we'll see with that. I need to chat with Juan about this as well, and think about the kind of call to action as well. What do we want people to do? Because obviously the boostagrams aren't working for this one like they are in the Mere Mortals channel. So maybe I need to change that up. So yeah, that is the Boostagram Lounge. Sad puppy for today. Very sad puppy. Oh my God. What's coming up in June of 2023? Well, I've got a fat stack of books here, and I can definitely tell you that the Temple of the Golden Pavilion by Yukio Mishima, I have read this, so that is the one that will be coming out next. I have Arthur Miller's The Crucible, also a relatively short book, a play. I'm not sure I have read Medea and other plays, so I have read a play before, but this one is certainly more of a modern type. Man, there's a hard book to get through. Even though it's short, it packs a lot. I'm feeling a lot of emotions from it. I also have here Fyodor Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground and The Double. So I will likely make my way through that. And then probably also Kurt Vonnegut's The Sirens of Titan, which I'm not exactly sure. Just reading the book here, when Winston Niles room forward flies his spacecraft into a chronosynclastic infundibulum, he is converted into pure energy and only materializes when his waveforms intercept Earth or some other planet. This sounds very similar to Slaughterhouse-5 with the weirdness aspect that he had, which I wasn't a fan of, to be honest. I actually didn't like Slaughterhouse-5, but I really did enjoy Cat's Cradle. So I think this could be like a kind of make and break of the Kurt Vonnegut. If I enjoy this one, I'll read more of his in the future. If I don't enjoy this one, yeah, I'll have to see. So a fair few books coming up on my part. Maybe Juan has some. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see on that. What else do I have to say? Nothing too much. Oh yeah, I can see him here in the chat. He says he's coming up. Discipline. Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. So yeah, that's another one. Where that'll fit into the scheme in June, who knows? Maybe it'll even push back into July, or maybe one of mine will. I'm not too sure on that. So yeah, that is everything. Let's jump into the final section, value for value. What can you do to help support this podcast? There's many different ways you can do that. I think what I'm just really asking for at the moment is feedback of just any sort. So if you can leave a comment or review of what your opinions of the book, what you thought of my opinions of the book, and basically just wanting to know that people out there are actually listening to this and valuing it, because it does somewhat feel like I'm not getting a lot of feedback in return for the effort that I'm putting in, and that is down onto me. Obviously, I'm not putting valuable things out there for people. Maybe I do need to make it more spicy and have more shooting from the hip. Maybe that is what people want in a book review, and not a really detailed, methodical, thought out process, which I have been doing. And maybe shooting from the hip is more fun. Who knows? So I'll probably have to experiment with that. And I would just love to know, what do you look for in a book review? What are the things that you find valuable? Do you want more themes? Do you want less themes? Do you want more of a analysis of the structure? Do you want to just know what my emotions were whilst reading it? Do you want a detailed breakdown of the chapters? Do you want to know more about the authors' lives and why they wrote this book? All of these sorts of things would help me get a feel for what it is that you want as the listener, as the viewer. So all of that being said as well, I would just recommend checking out the Mere Mortals podcast, and a lot of the thoughts and ideas that come from these books, they transition their way onto the Mere Mortals podcast. I myself talk about it with either my guests, who I have on for conversations, getting up to close to 100 now, which is very cool, or with Juan, also getting up to close to 400, which is also very cool. And yeah, we discuss a lot of these ideas. We discuss a lot of what these books are, how they help us in our everyday life, kind of transitioning it not just from this airy-fairy thoughts and ideas up in the head, and or the pure entertainment value, which a lot of these are. A lot of these books are really just kind of for entertainment, but they can have some applicability onto the real life as well. So we kind of discuss about that, transition some of the learnings that we get from those into there as well. So all of that being said, I really do hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Kyrin, out. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream there. Thanks everyone for joining in, i.e. Juan. Joe Smith, I'm sure you'll enjoy the double. Dostoevsky's wit and irony in this story is hilarious. Beautiful. I didn't even get the book for learning about the double. It was pretty much because I'd heard Notes from Underground is great. And how big is the double? The double's about half the size of it, so 100 and something pages as well. Okay, nice. Awesome. Thank you, Joe, for that little comment there. Also, Juan, thank you for giving a little bit more details in the chat there about the Life Force book and what you've got coming up. So yeah. That's it for today, everyone. Usually, I'm not sure I'll be in the Discord for this chat afterwards, but there is a link there. If you write in there, we'll respond. So don't take the lack of quietness in there. It's just Juan and I just don't want to be chatting to ourselves in the Discord. It's kind of one of those chicken and the egg problems. You probably need to be chatting in there to draw people in, but then also I have no inherent fun in just chatting to myself in a Discord. I don't actually even really enjoy typing stuff online. So yeah, just letting you know that. I'm going to tune out there. Thank you so much for joining in, and until the next time. Ciao.